We've just come up to the top of the hour, and like to introduce anyone who's just dialed in to our webinar on improving first contact resolution, which I think is, we did a poll recently and it's proven to be one of the most popular, if not the most popular topic we did on that poll. So I'm delighted to be joined by two well-known people in their field. Delighted to be joined by Richard Farrell from Netcall.
Afternoon, Johnson.
Welcome to you. Good afternoon. And you've been on a number of webinars with us before. Richard, your role is Chief Technology Officer within Netcall. So is that a sort of like a Q type role, like as in the James Bond?
Yeah, I have a lab full of secret technology to unleash on the contact center industry. Yeah, it really is. It's quite future focused. So we're looking at what's really required for our customers to service their customers in the future. To be part of the role.
And you've been working in Netcall for a good number of years now. I think we first spoke about 10 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've been with Netcall for 13 years now.
Wow.
Contact centers about 20.
Wow. Excellent. And also delighted to introduce to you Andy Walker from Netcall, from the Warranty Group. And Andy, if people aren't familiar with the Warranty Group, what's the Warranty Group best known for?
Hi everyone. The Warranty Group is essentially, we're a company that handles insurance for extended warranties on either your appliances, your TVs, and your washing machines. We also cover some motor breakdown. So rather than your normal motor insurance, it's the breakdown cover, so if something goes wrong, it gets fixed. To a tiny bit of credit, but that's a bit of a dying form of insurance these days.
Excellent. And you're going to be giving us some of the practical lessons that you've learned along. Sure. So as we go through the agenda, Richard will be taking us through a strategy for improving first contact resolution. Andy will be joining in with some of the practical lessons learnt along the way. And we're also going to be doing some of our regular top tips and questions from the audience. If you want to log in, please, into the chat room. We've got a lot of people logged in already. We've got Jason from Cape Town, Carl from Newton Cramlington near Newcastle. We've got Andrew from Johannesburg, as also Lorraine from Johannesburg. I think we've got the furthest one today is Debbie is joining us from California, which I think must be something about 6 o'clock in the morning there. Vinay from Bangalore, and Fons joining us from the Netherlands, so quite a range of people. So you can leave in the chat room any tips or questions you've got. A replay will be available later on today, and a white paper, which is an executive summary of the research, will be sent out to you probably in a couple of weeks time. It's early pre-release currently, and that full report will be available in what, a couple of weeks? Yeah. That sort of time frame. So log into the chat room, no commercial messages, and web addresses or emails only in the direct message function, please. And then if you want to get a copy of the webinar slides, just this link at the top right-hand side of the page, download webinar slides. You can get the slides from there. So what I'd like to do is I'd just like to put up a poll to get us warmed up, and that is, how do you measure first contact resolution? Do you measure it and select all that apply? Do you measure it as no repeat calls in a given time frame? Do you look at repeat contact reasons in the CRM system? Do you ask the customer if their problem is resolved? Do you do a post-call survey? Or do you not measure first contact resolution? So, Richard, what would be your take about what you think might be very popular in here?
Well, if I start with the other one, we don't measure first contact resolution. I'd imagine that would be relatively low, so that should probably be less than a third. The repeat calls in a given time frame is a good measure. We ask the customer is a good measure. It will be really interesting to see what our audience do.
Okay, well, let's have a look at, we're still waiting for a few more votes to come in from the audience, so I'd just like to put your vote on there. So let's have a look at the scores. What's the sample size here? It's 122. So we'll share the results with you now. So, oh, you reckoned about a third won't be measuring first contact resolution there.
There we go.
So 39%. So that's probably the largest number we've got on there. 28% are no repeat calls within a given time frame. 24%, and I think ask the customer. I think I quite like that as an approach. 15% with repeat contact reasons in the CRM system, and only 13% on a post-call server. That seems quite a low level there, Andy. Would you expect that to be high?
Yeah, I would have thought. I think the surveys are becoming a more common approach to it. You can't guarantee anyone's going to answer the survey, but if you send it out, it can really highlight some interesting feedback. So, you only have to ask your questions to get some useful information.
I guess the danger with the surveys is you tend to get a slightly self-selecting group of people. So the ones who are most unhappy would tend to fill that in.
Yeah, and historically there have also been systems where agents have been able to choose which calls are surveyed, which is also skews some of the results. So it's better, we believe, to give the caller, if it's an IVR survey, to give them the option during the call, before the call, and just route them to the survey after the call without any agent intervention there.
So I'd like to put a question now to the audience. What is your biggest cause of repeat calls? So this is free form. If you'd like to type this into the chat room. What is your biggest cause of repeat calls? Is it some sort of process failure, other problems in the company? Just like to put in what your biggest cause of repeat calls is. Debbie says it's an unresolved problem. Vinay says it's an unresolved problem. If you could be a little bit more specific on what problems it is that are unresolved, we'd be interested to see. We've got incomplete information on the initial call, says Janet. Kerry says it's agent behavior and or business processes. Neil says it's promised callbacks. Agents not looking into the future and trying to answer a follow-up, follow-up questions. Lisa says the agent didn't provide a complete answer. Candice, lack of feedback from agents. Laura said unclear letters. Julie, need additional information to resolve the issue. Lack of a unified solution across the group, says Brett. Sporadic approach to customer contact collection. Too many spreadsheets, so it looks like there's a technological solution to that. Amy says it's promised callbacks. Debbie says healthcare industry, medical refill incomplete. So that's quite an interesting one there. Not fully understanding the customer request, says Matt. We're seeing quite a lot of not getting the information down at the first time there. That seems to be quite a common one, Andy.
I think it depends on the industry you're talking about, of course, but that could be quite an easy one to fix as well. Just making sure you've got the right systems and the right information at your agent's fingertips could make a big difference to that. Julie
says chasing callbacks. This seems to be quite a common one where I guess people promise callback and the callback doesn't happen within the allocated time.
Yeah, important to manage customer expectations on that one.
Yeah.
If you promise a day and get back in 4 hours, you've done a brilliant job. If you promise 4 hours and it's 4 hours and 1 minute, you've done a rubbish job.
Yeah.
So really important to manage expectations.
That's another one where there's a sort of technological solution to at least some of that.
Yep.
Customer issue reoccurred because the agent didn't cover all the issues. Carl says an unhelpful website. That's quite a common one. That's why I often I call in. Account lockups due to using multiple devices on bring your own device, as Barry. And quite an arrangement. And Tom says other departments not sticking till SLAs. That's where the call center is often the sticking plaster for the rest of the organisation. So some quite fascinating ones going through in the chat room. So I'm going to pass the baton now across to Richard Farrell from Netcall, and Richard's going to be sharing with us a strategy for improving first contact resolution with a sort of 4-step plan included for what you can do in that. So let's pass across to Richard. We can see your slides there. Would you like to take us through your thoughts, please?
Excellent. Thank you very much, Marty. So we've got a busy agenda, but we'll try and break it down and what we'll do as we go through it is Andy will be able to give us some great experience from the warranty group with some really good examples of how performance has improved and first contact resolution has improved and the good reasons for doing so. So we'll examine first contact resolution. We'll try and explain what it is and define it. And we'll go through why it's important to do it, what the business case is, primary factors affecting first contact resolution, and we just had a whole load of them in the chat room. And then we'll get on to 4 steps for improvement. And those are incremental steps. We can start some of them tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, or even straight after the webinar. So in terms of defining first contact resolution, we really think it's the customer should define when the query has been resolved. So it was really interesting to see the poll results to see how it was measured. About 2/3 of contact centres claim to measure first contact resolution in some way. It can depend upon the complexity of the query and the channel the customer chooses. So it's not always very straightforward, so especially when people are using multiple channels, and also when they may be dealing with multiple departments as well. So from the time the customer makes first contact to the time when a contact centre agent resolves the query, that's when it's open, and if the customer makes no subsequent contact regarding that query, then it's a first contact resolution. So we're going to let you into some top secret exclusive research that Netcall commissioned just in September this year. So this is an exclusive preview for webinar viewers today, and we're really quite proud of the rigorousness of the survey. So there's a research base of over 1,300 UK adults, and adults are over 16-year-olds in this, and you can see the weightings there for gender, age and region. And so we asked a number of questions about how customers feel about first contact resolution. And we asked specifically, how often is your query resolved on the first contact? And only 5% of the sample believe that their query is resolved on the first contact. Now, it's interesting because, of course, you only need one bad example that really skews people's belief. And we see that quite a lot. People remember the bad experiences a lot more than the good experiences. But there's certainly a big gap there in customer perception. And I don't know how many of the audience, when they talk about contact centres to their friends and colleagues, you know, everybody has a good complaint about first contact resolution and a contact centre. What's the impact of this? Well, 42% of the sample who said they didn't get a resolution on the first contact said they'd escalate to a supervisor. And it's very, very common. People don't get the query resolved, I need to speak to a supervisor. And obviously there are big cost implications of that. We're in a social world now. 26% of our survey say they will head to social media to express dissatisfaction. So TripAdvisor means every hotel has got a bad review, and Twitter means that every time you deliver a poor experience, there's potentially a very big audience who can see that. And 1 in 10 of our surveys said that they would take their business elsewhere if their query wasn't resolved on the first contact. Whether it's easy for them to do that in practice or not, it's a moot point, but certainly it has a big impact on retention of customers.
Just a quick note from the audience, if some of Richard's slides are cutting off on your display, you can, we'll have a look at see if we can improve that, but you can download Richard's slides through just seems to be trimming off on certain monitors just on the right hand side, which people can then get from callcenterhelp.com/chat. They can download a copy of slides to run through. It's just the occasional word missing off the end of the slide.
So why is a focus on improving first contact resolution important? Well, the first thing that happens with repeated contacts is that there are higher overall interaction volumes, and if you have more volumes it means you need more agents, which means that you have higher than necessary costs, and quite easily costs of between 5 and 15% of budget can be caused by not resolving queries on the first contact. So a lot of the things that we got in the chat room about promised callbacks or incorrect information, that has an impact because it leads to repeat calls, and that means you need more people to deliver the service. From the customer or the caller angle, Not resolving a query on the first contact leads to greater effort, which means there's a poorer customer experience. That can lead to retention problems, and depends upon industry and vertical sector, but typically it will cost between 4 to 10 times more to recruit a new customer than it would do to keep an existing customer. So there are productivity benefits to improving first contact resolution. Essentially, you have to do less work to get to the same result, and then you also improve customer experience, which leads to improved profits and revenue. Now, we're a software company, so unfortunately we can't tell you that there's a single software solution that you can buy that's going to solve this for you. And we really see two main factors, two primary factors that affect first contact resolution, and they have pretty much all been picked up in the chat room as well. So on one side it's the technology or the process. So on our vertical axis here we have a technology and joined up systems. But if you can do both at the same time, if you can join your technology up so you have a single view of the whole customer experience, regardless of channel, regardless of department, and if you can give agents the discretion to deliver a quality experience, then you'll have a great chance of achieving great first contact resolution rates. And skilled agents having the discretion to deliver a quality experience doesn't mean giving them a carte blanche to give away all of your money.
No.
But there are times when, for example, to retain a customer, some tokens of appreciation that can be offered and empowered to agents within certain boundaries makes an awful lot of sense.
So I've often found that actually if you empower your agents, then it's not often as much that's given away as you think, because if people feel empowered, they know when someone's trying it on, and they also get to know when it's not going to, could actually make things worse, because if, people only want their problem solved, offering compensation may not help that. Sometimes it does.
And it's about that skill. So a supplier that I use, they've pretty much, their first response when they have a network outage now is immediately they'll tell you they'll take some money off the bill, or they'll give you a credit. So I expect that now. So I ring them up, I want that, so the baseline has changed. Whereas if they'd left that to the discretion of the agent, that when I didn't seem happy they might do it, then they'd have saved themselves a lot more money and managed my expectations better. Yeah. So, unfortunately not a silver bullet, but we think technology and agent empowerment are really, really vital. So in terms of our 4 steps for continuous improvement, the first thing to do is to try and avoid calls where necessary. So in order to avoid calls, it's necessary to analyse where they come from. And in most circumstances...
And there's a few comments in the chat room about what people are offering in terms of, on our last point. Alan says, we offer flowers or a small goodwill venture. Alan says that agents have the empowerment to offer various gifts to different people. So a little bit of feedback on that.
And that empowerment, I mean, that switches the whole relationship from a negative one where I want to speak to a supervisor to thank you very much. It really does shift it, given that discretion. So in terms of the improvement, the first step that we really think you should do is to analyse the call types. And once you understand where calls are coming through, with the classic Pareto analysis, you will find that a big proportion of them are of a similar type. And quite often, low complexity, high volume, structured information type calls are ripe for automation. And that means either IVR or speech or a web form. We also think it's really important to push information, to be proactive. So when you know something's gone wrong, or you know there's a change in status, to update the customer. So rather than wait for a call to come in, tell them in advance, keep them informed. And again, you'll improve customer experience there as well. So not only will you reduce the call volume and reduce your costs, you'll have happier customers. And surveys, 13% were using surveys to capture FCR earlier on in our poll. Surveys are a really valuable tool, and they can be used to measure a variety of things. And we've had some great webinars talking about different sorts of metrics. We think there is a balanced approach to performance within the contact center. The agent, the customer views are vital, So things like Net Promoter Score are very useful.
Yes.
Things like Customer Effort Score
Yeah.
are very, very interesting. So use surveys, get the feedback, and if you can also link the survey score back to the call and the agent performance, then you create this really great virtuous circle where you can see what the agent thinks and what the customer thinks as well.
Particularly if that can be fairly instant, because there's nothing quite like instant feedback, particularly those customer comment verbatims, as they're often known, the text, some of the emotion coming out of that.
Yeah, and
very powerful.
And it also reinforces that there's positive news in there as well. So it won't just be complaints and negative stuff. People will express when they've had a really good experience, and that's really powerful as well. So in terms of those 4 areas, I know that Andy's got some great experience from the warranty group about the steps for improvement there.
Yeah, for sure. We took a look some years ago at what type of calls we were getting and realised quite obviously actually that the large volume calls were sales and claim calls in the industry we're in. So if we look at the sales side, we mail offers of insurance on behalf of our clients out to their customer base, whether that be a first-time offer for someone who's perhaps bought a TV in store but didn't take out an extended warranty while they were there at point of sale, or perhaps it's a renewal of an existing cover that customer's got, so they've had a year's extended warranty. We send them an offer for a following year and keep going actually until the appliance is no longer coverable. So what we found is that by introducing a customer-facing website to allow them to take up those offers online, they enter some details to identify themselves. They get the offer up on screen, they accept it should they choose, and we take payment on site. Initially we got a 15% throughput on the website compared to all of those traditionally coming through on the phones. We then did some work to tailor to the letters to really push home the fact that the customers could go to that website, and we're now doing about a third of our throughput is coming through the website. And you can imagine
it's quite an impressive.
Yeah, so it's a big saving,
amount, yeah.
And it's beneficial to the customer as well. They can go online when convenient to them. They don't have to look at contact centre times or queuing if there's a large volume of calls at that moment. They can do it when they want, where they want. So
we're also starting to see a generation of, I think it's called the millennial generation, sort of under 24, who actually don't, either they've grown up everything electronically, don't actually like using the phone, so would prefer to do everything online.
I think I fall into that. I'm not that young, unfortunately, but I'd rather do something online if I can, rather than have to phone someone up, just as a personal preference. I think it's going that way more and more.
Yeah, it's quite. I know how to spell my surname. I don't have to tell anybody how to spell my surname.
That's true. Yeah, yeah.
So rather than translating it into somebody else typing it into a form, why not do it yourself?
Yeah.
I think also you were doing some proactive notification as well, is that right?
It's something we're looking at. There's 2 things on the claim side where we also get large volume. We're looking more and more to repeat what we've done on the sales side, create some customer portals where they can come in and initiate a claim online themselves. They don't have to phone up and deal with the contact centre agents. So that we're expecting when that comes online, that to save us a large volume as well. There's always going to need to be some interaction, particularly the industry we're in, where we need to assess those claims and really make sure that it's a valid claim. But we can take a lot of the pain away from the phone call. In some cases, we'll be able to automate it completely through those systems. As well as that, when an appliance perhaps goes off to be repaired, one of the frequent sort of repeat calls we'd get would be a customer who hasn't had a lot of information from the repairer. It's one of our repair network who's doing the repair. It's not us. So where that repairer isn't keeping them updated, they're phoning in to find out what's happening.
Yeah.
So we're at the point where we're starting to send text messages and email updates. Perhaps there's a delay because they've had to order a part, for example. We'll send that out to the customer, they know what's going on. They feel more happy about the situation, even though there's been a delay. But they also don't phone in to find out what's happening.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful because that just improves customer experience no end. Psychologically, they feel that it's under control rather than not knowing. And of course, it saves a telephone call, so it's wins all round.
It is absolutely both ways. It's better customer service for the customers, but it is saving us money as well. So,
brilliant.
Makes sense.
Very good.
Okay, so on to the next poll.
Okay, so the next poll we're going to look at is, in your organisation, a repeat call is more likely to be caused by. Now we came across a number of these earlier, but it'd be good to get some quantification on these. It's likely to be caused by, more likely to be caused by an agent, the customer, the web form or website and the contact system not being joined up, a process failure, or other departments needing to be involved. You can vote for more than one on this, so perhaps put your first and second choices in here. So in your organisation, a repeat call is most likely to be caused by an agent, the customer, website and contact centre not joined up, a process failure, or other departments need to be involved. So let's get the results coming through there. We had quite a number of agent ones this morning, so I guess that's going to be interesting. And we had website inquiries coming up, so I guess that was or incomplete information on the website. So let's just have a look at the results as they come through. Just going to share those with everyone here. So 61% are due to agent problems as the top, then 54% process failure, which is one of my old bugbears. 47% other departments had to be involved. That's pretty staggering. There, 22% the customer, only 19% website problems, which I guess this is dealing with repeat calls rather than first calls. Andy, 47% other departments. That's quite a high number, isn't it?
It does seem like a high number. From our experience, I think in years gone by, certainly it was a less joined up approach, and there were virtual walls between each department, and it would be very much you do what you can, and then the customer experiences are delayed while you're going past that issue onto the more relevant department. By joining all the systems up and similar to your EE news story, giving the people on the phone the chance to handle everything or as much as they can there and then, it makes such a big difference.
So there are, Richard, the agent and process failures are the top two there. So I think you're going to be talking about some continuous improvement, is that?
Yeah, when I was in contact centres, it was never my agents. It was always the process, some other one. So once we've analyse where the calls are coming from, then it's important to then try and schedule the appropriate agents for the call volumes. It's necessary to have a look at differences between peak and average times, and part of this work will be to provide a perspective on having the right agent at the right place at the right time. And it's not necessarily just about having a number of agents overall in the contact centre, but obviously if it's for particular lines of business or for skill sets, it's important to have the right ones within those skills that are available. So you need to route the customers to the agents with the relevant skills. You need to have the agents appropriately scheduled. We believe that an agent-focused quality monitoring system has a lot of value, and this is something else that can be fed from customer surveys to get this holistic view on the whole experience, and highlight areas of repeat data entry or system delay. So we'll all have had experiences as customers while an agent tells us that their system's running slow or they just need to copy details into another system. And there are some really good ways that you can resolve that without having to chuck everything out and replace everything, to provide unified desktops for agents to give them everything in one place. I believe that the warranty group you've experienced with both workforce management and with desktops.
Yes, that's right. We use one of Netcall's products and have done for years now actually, to it's a workforce management tool that allows us to very accurately predict when we're going to get peaks.
That's the Qmax.
Qmax, yeah. That's right, yeah. It allows us to predict when we're going to experience peaks, whether that be within a week, within a time of day, different months of the year. The classic examples, I suppose, Monday mornings are always heavy, and also around the Christmas period, particularly in the appliance technology area, people bought their Christmas presents. Then you get phone calls when there's a problem, you can't get it to work or whatever it happens to be. So we use Qmax to predict that, and it allows us to resource for those peaks and make sure that queuing time is at a minimum. We have a minimum standard of the 80-20 sort of principle. 80% of calls have to be answered in the first 20 seconds. Mm-hmm. Generally, we're better than that though because of the tools we use. I think also we do, as Richard was saying, we do specialise our teams as well, and we direct certain calls to specialist staff. We operate a pool setup where everyone can do everything, but there are groups that have particular specialisations. So the systems will drive the calls to those specialists first. If none are free, then it will look for one of the other more generally skilled people. So we always have a fallback position. It doesn't live or die by the fact that one of your specialists is available. Doing things this way means that the majority of calls are answered by someone who knows what they're talking about, can handle that customer's issue more quickly, more efficiently, and more knowledgeably. So the customer feels like they're getting a much better experience. They're not on the phone for ages while the agent's trying to find out what to do. So it's better for the customer, and again, it's better for us. It's saving us call duration and saving us cost.
Yeah, win-wins again. Yeah, better experience and reduced cost.
Fabulous, wonderful. So we're going to jump across to another poll now. So I will just put the poll up on the screen here, and then we'll just jump into a few audience tips. So the question is: do your agents feel empowered? Do they feel empowered to operate from defined scripts? Do they have to have approval for any changes? Do agents operate within boundaries? Can agents make small allowances and are agents empowered to operate within guidelines? So I'd just like to put the results up on the screen there. So we're just waiting for a few of those to come through, and I think we've got most of the votes in here, and we'll share the results up on the screen. So by far the largest is agent within boundaries. Agents can make small allowances for customer needs. Comes in, it's 55% for the first one. 39% can make small allowances for customer needs. 27% operate from defined scripts. 26% are empowered to operate within their own discretion, and 19% can make changes but would require prior approval. So Richard, they're quite a growing amount there. I think 26% are empowered to operate within their own discretion.
Yeah, it's interesting, so where is the boundary and where is the discretion? I think with empowered agents, they will make the right decisions. And as you mentioned earlier on, they'll probably give away less than you might worry about. Yeah. But they will be able to have a really big impact on customer experience and retention.
Yeah, excellent. Right, well, let's go to have a look at some of the top tips and questions that have come in from the audience. Just a reminder, there is a box of champagne, or sorry, a bottle of champagne, or a box of chocolates for the best tip. Actually, the bottle of champagne does come in a nice presentation box, so I was technically right on that one. Brett says, we often find that first contact resolution for the customer service centre is not the same as first contact resolution for the customer. Remits for the customer service centre are dependent on what level of knowledge and support is given to the front line by the departments it supports. I've found this as a problem in a different way. I've phone up twice in the last 2 weeks ago. I got two call center calls in a week where I phoned them to report a problem. The agent, in both cases, entered their details onto the system and said, "I've entered the details into the system, Mr. Pierce, so I've marked it as resolved." And I said, "No, you've done everything you can to solve the problem, but until the actual problem is resolved, that's when it's resolved." In one case, the agent spent about 5 minutes trying to convince me that the problem was resolved because it was entered in the database. No, it's resolved when you pick up the parcel and take it away from me and give a substitution. So I think there's always a danger on how we measure this.
Absolutely, and those system measurements that don't take the view of the customer, if you're not careful, you could be kidding yourself that you're doing a great job, but your customers aren't feeling the same and they're disappearing.
I guess the antidote to that. At the end of the call, ask the customer if they have any questions about what has been discussed, and ask if there are any items we can assist the customer with before ending the call.
I think that's a really useful approach. So from our point of view, because we're so heavily regulated anyway, we don't quite have that approach, but we have to ask at the end of every call whether the customer's satisfied that they've been dealt with, and we have to record every expression of dissatisfaction. That may turn into a complaint, but it may just be, well, you didn't give me enough information, or whatever it might happen to be. We are audited on that, would you believe? So we had to introduce it because of the regulations, but then we found it's giving us so many more benefits anyway. We're starting to get measures on things that we didn't. It was only our perception before that, just as Richard was saying, you think you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
The actual perception of the customer is quite different sometimes.
Indeed. Well, Losgan has said we've identified agent skill and repositioned them to areas of those customers' query, and this has improved first contact resolution. Internal resolution process has also been reviewed for bottlenecks, because I guess there's often a lot of organization process bottlenecks, and it sometimes feels as a customer that we own the process ourselves, and we're the one who sort of do the tubing up and reminding, rather than it being the other way around. Ralph said, identify the caller, email, I am a texter, etc. Customer, I suppose, would be a simpler way of saying that. That should be the first priority, followed by correlating that identify with the database step and displaying the customer's recent activity on the agent screen. So I guess it's joining up the different channels.
Absolutely.
And if an agent can see the mortgage offer has been posted recently and can then advise the customer on the current status of the letter, delivery, and so on, the customer will feel a lot happier that the organization is on top of their situation and then compares it being addressed. I can't think of a more process-driven call than a mortgage call, can you?
Mortgage applications are great, multi-stages, various parties, post in there as well, delays, things going backwards and forwards. So having a single place to have the status is vital in that sort of process.
Yeah, and I've seen too many mortgage centres in the past where I've seen the process. It's a pile of paper about that thick with a sort of kind of cord going through it. And you do think that's the customer really is in control, is the one that drives that process rather than the computer system.
Yeah, sometimes it can seem a bit like the agent might be trying to abdicate responsibility for the firm. I've done what I can do. It's over to you to try and work your way through it.
Yeah.
Not really fair on the customer, where they have a choice.
Let's have a look through. Amy says, we've got a lot of information on the screen. Most of our activity is automatic, the agents can see, but also the customer when they log on to the site. I love the transparent process of what the customer sees, what the agent can see. Our agents also have the ability to see all contacts made with them via all communication channels. The customer also has an expectation of response within 24 hours as stated when they contact. All of this results in the customers generally being happy, but sometimes our speed still needs to improve. So
I think the expectations are increasingly more real time, even in other communication channels. So with our always-on consumers, I think you used to be able to get away with 24 hours for an email. Certainly in lots of industries now, you're going to have to be much quicker than that. But it's, getting that information in one place is vital. And
everything's going omni-channel as well. So more and more, we're looking at the customer having the choice of whether they phone in, they can see it on the website, they get text, they get communicated with by text or email. They should have that choice, and it's up to our industries to provide it, really.
So we'll just do a couple more. Happy employees make happy customers. We randomly award agents based on QA evaluations. We look for agents who consistently provide extraordinary customer service based on our evaluation. We also award gift cards. And Neil said we empower our agents to make decisions without supervisor approval within a certain limit. So I guess that's a good level of empowerment there. So all right, let's put the baton back to Richard, and you can take us through step 3 of your four-point plan.
Thank you, Jonty. So it is always great with these webinars and the way they're constructed with the polls in the chat room, because it really aligns with the topics, and to some extent we've already discussed what's on step. So that first one is about auditing the processes between contact centre and back office.
Yeah.
49% of our audience think it's other departments causing problems with first contact resolution, causing repeat calls. Let's audit these processes and find out what's going on, what's happening with the data, where the delays are, where the bottlenecks are. It's possible to integrate internal systems to speed up information access. So historically, it's always been considered a really tough, big business intelligence project and really hard work. There are in fact much simpler ways to do it these days. Improve visibility of internal staff, and what we're talking about there is there are some new technologies which can help extend the contact centre out beyond the agents on the phone. So for example, if you have some form of instant messaging and presence solution, we do some great work with Microsoft Link, whereby anybody in the organisation, their presence is available to a contact centre agent. So if necessary, you can find out if somebody's available in the back office. You can send an instant message, you can conference a call in, you can transfer them. So it's about extending that contact centre, if you like, to more staff internally. So there's some really great benefits that you can get there. And the other one is about encouraging all the departments to be available to support first contact resolution. So first contact resolution, if it's just a contact centre target and measure, is not going to work. It needs to be about the company measure. It needs to be about joining everything up. Both systems and processes. So like our 2x2 grid, you can do some great work with systems and it will get you somewhere. You do some great work with processes and it will get you somewhere. You do your systems and your processes together and you'll get some great results.
Yeah, I think something I'd add to that from my experience is, we've been running as an organisation for 50 years, and some of our systems have got quite dated along that path in recent years. So we've taken steps to introduce more efficient, streamlined processes as well as the systems to go with them. So we have a joined up desktop for the contact centre agent to use, whereas before in the legacy systems they maybe have to navigate backwards and forwards through green and black screens. I'm sure a lot of the audience are familiar with those. There's a lot less real estate on those screens, so you can't see everything on one screen at the same time, and that was causing our agents a really slow down process. As well, different teams would have access to different elements of the system. So introducing a new front end, we worked with Netcall and used their Eden platform. We delivered a much more efficient front end that allowed the agent to see everything they'll commonly need in one go when they're taking that call. There may be exceptional calls where they'd have to navigate away, but generally everything they need is on that one screen. It's allowed us to despite the increases in our regulatory burden, where we have to take the customer through more information and make sure that we cover off those regulatory requirements, it's allowed us to make a net saving of about 60 seconds a call, which is huge. It's drastically reduced our cost. It hasn't reduced our headcount because our volumes and our business has expanded at the same time, but we're much more efficient now, and it's allowing us to handle the customers' queries more quickly. They're on the phone for less time, they're happier, we're saving cost again. Everyone's a winner yet again. So definitely joining up your systems and giving your agents the tools they need to answer those calls will make a big difference.
Fabulous. So we're going to jump across to another poll, and it'll be quite an interesting one interesting to see this one. And what would have the highest impact to solve problems on the customer journey? So would it be joining up with other departments? Would it be improving the CRM system? Would it improving the agent desktop? Would it be avoiding demand from other departments such as marketing? Would it be something like link or instant messaging? So you can select as many of these as you'd like to on here to see what could be improved. Andy, I guess a lot of what you did was about the sort of agent desktop.
Yeah, I mean, if I was answering the question, the biggest one for me would be agent desktop. It'd be interesting to see what the audience thinks.
Yeah, let's have a look. And I guess we already know that a lot of people have already talked about problems joining up. A lot of back office departments. So let's see if joining up with those other departments has a bearing on here. So let's close the results and share those with you. So 65% joined up with other departments. 51%, Andy, is on the agent desktop, as we probably would have predicted. 48% on the CRM system. CRM seems to be not a common solver of problems, as it was once promoted about 10 years ago. It was going to solve all our problems, wasn't it? CRM systems. 22% instant messaging or link within the contact center. Wow, that's quite a surprise. I just hadn't expected it as high in there. And 17% avoiding demand created by others, i.e. marketing. Should have been probably e.g. marketing rather.
It was always marketing that caused me problems.
Yeah.
So yeah, link instant messaging, Richard. Is that sort of becoming more widespread now? Is it accepted?
It's still very, very early days. It's quite embryonic, but that extension of the contact center beyond the agent sitting in a room and potentially engaging other parts of the organisation can help with first contact resolution. And it's lots and lots of call centres are the front end to very complex organisational processes. So it's not surprising that sometimes somebody else has to be asked. And if you can see where they are, if you can just have a quick check, if you can just fire off an instant message while your customer's on the phone, then you can really help with that first contact resolution.
So it seems there's some very, very strong technological solutions to first contact resolution. So would you like to, Richard, take us through the fourth part of the plan to improve first contact resolution? I just missed the hand over there, so I'll just change back to you again, Richard, and then hopefully that should release the connection.
Okay, so our step 4 for continuous improvement to agent empowerment, improving agent skills and knowledge, empowered agents resolve more contacts and improves customer satisfaction. Training and knowledge isn't a do once and then leave it alone, it's an ongoing process, so skills need to be updated over time. And we think it's really important for agents to preempt probable follow-up interactions. So that's come back in some of the chat room as well. I think historically, where there has been a real focus on cost reduction and handle time, I think a lot of organisations have really missed the point with trying to drive down call duration, because 2 1-minute 30 calls are worse than 1 2-minute call. So if you can get your agent to preempt the follow-up question, preempt that next call, then it's extra benefit. We've talked about setting discretionary boundaries, and that's good that agents are able to do that in lots of circumstances. I had an example recently, this is my anecdote, where there was a failed omni-channel process, a website and a call centre weren't really aligned. It was an insurance sale. I should be a good customer for the insurance firm. 9 years, no claims bonus, couple of vehicles, legal assistance, break down the whole lot, and the agent wanted to charge me £10 for a cancellation fee. So obviously my response was, well, no. and then that was immediately to a supervisor. But for £10, you know, the acquisition cost of me for a customer would be hundreds, lifetime value thousands, and the poor agent had to go and check with the supervisor for a £10.
Yeah, does seem nuts, really.
Yeah.
That was a big car insurer, was it?
It was a big car insurer.
I had a similar instance with a big car insurer that has a lot of red on its adverts.
I couldn't possibly mention how the adverts were. It was interesting because I tried, as Andy mentioned earlier on, I tried to self-serve on the web as well, but I couldn't actually complete the transaction. No. So I was, broken website, I was forced to go to the call centre.
Yeah.
So, you know, for some of these large organisations, you would think that they would be able to address some of those systemic issues.
Yeah. And quite easy to work out the cost of doing it because you do the maths on it.
The business case is there, isn't it? And one thing that we see increasingly to improve performance is to try and harness a knowledge base. So, depending upon your industry, anywhere between a half and 2/3 of customers will have been on your website before they make the call. Around a third of customers may actually be on the web while they're making the call. And of course, there's nothing worse than the customer knowing more about the problem or the resolution than the agent. And again, you see some circumstances where it's the customer, the caller, who's having to lead people through the process because they've done their research. There are some great technologies out there, knowledge base. There's lots of work to prove the value with structured knowledge. There's some increasingly interesting work around unstructured knowledge as well. So there's some really exciting stuff that can help with natural language and improved knowledge base. I can't mention the brand, but there's interesting stuff coming along. There's a big organisation that a couple of years ago won a US chat show, Jeopardy.
Oh, wow.
Using and this is starting to be commercialised to a knowledge base. So agents will be able to ask natural language questions and get real great answers out.
And I love it when knowledge now is often shared not just in the contact centre but on the website, a sort of common portal, because that often drives up the quality of the knowledge as well.
Yeah, you can see some startup organisations. GiftGap is the classic example in mobile phones, where in order to reduce costs, they've actually outsourced that function to their customers in a forum type nature. You know, it's not going to be the case for every vertical channel and every product. But you know, there's so much knowledge out there. There's so much data out there. You know, Google is your friend.
We've been doing the same sort of thing actually, from a different angle, I suppose, in that we've provided our agents with a knowledge base to help them troubleshoot when the customer phones in, potentially to make a claim, particularly if you think this is extended warranties. Their TV isn't showing one of the channels it was showing yesterday. Quite often the agent will be able to talk the customer through some steps to resolve that issue, and it's not actually a fault with the appliance at all. It's something that just needed that extra piece of knowledge to talk the customer through. So our agents are empowered in that way. They take the call and they can try and troubleshoot using the knowledge base that we've built. Ultimately, it's a benefit. The customer doesn't have to wait for their set to be taken off and fixed and brought back. They've got it fixed there and then during the course of that call. It saves us repair costs as well. Every time we send a repairer out, it costs. So knowledge bases are really useful. We're looking more and more about what we can put up onto our customer portals as well. So rather than phone in and have an agent talk you through, they can go up and find the same sort of information. We do have to be careful with it because there's some things that you wouldn't want. You need that interaction. You wouldn't want a customer trying. If something goes wrong, you'll be held accountable. So particularly for our industry, you just need to be careful what you put out there into the other channels. But certainly self-help is a big focus for us.
Yeah, and assisting agents as well. You know, especially in an environment where there are multiple brands and multiple products, you know, you will get a level of knowledge, but you know, agents can't remember everything. So let's help them out. Let's give them an extra chance of improving that first contact resolution. So there's a whole load of topics that we've covered. We will be able to send out the slides and so on afterwards, and there's a set of strategies in there. So that's
Thank you very much for that, Richard. I think that's a great 4-point plan that you've got there. And if you haven't already got a copy of those slides, you can get those from the callcenterhelp.com/chat in the top right-hand side of the chat room. So we're going to do some quick tips and opinions from the audience. Ferguson has said FCR is directly proportional to empowered staff and properly thought out internal processes for query resolution. So
there's probably an equation there, isn't there?
Yeah, I think we want to perhaps do some more equations like this. We've already had happy staff equals happy customers. So yeah, perhaps we'll do some equations on that one. Alex said we're going through passionate collaboration training with which the business all have to take part in. I've actually found it to be a big issue, which has a massive effect on the customer. Certainly, the danger is sometimes with departmental things, we tend to stay within our departments rather than going out into the rest of the organisation, and often find that you get quite a warm reaction. And job share is quite a good way of breaking down some of those barriers. Alex says, I'm not surprised about other departments needing to be involved. In our business, there's a lot of miscommunication or not being informed between the contact centre and, for example, marketing, which have a really tight relationship. I know some companies really go and spend a lot of time with marketing saying, what are your plans? How can we help? And making it into, you put a plan out, we can get the staff behind it, and then everyone starts to benefit from that. Let's take a tip from Carl. We adapted close, which is quite good for first contact resolution. Contact, listen, object, solve, and evaluate. I think it's a lovely little one there. When we conducted quality scores, we found that listen part was being missed. Once we started to solve this, FCR was a lot more effective. I love that one, close. I love these little acronyms. Steve says sometimes clients just want to hear the word sorry. It's a big one that it can go a long way.
It can be tough, Yeah, people can feel very defensive about the brand and the company and their organisation.
Train agents to informally contract or agree resolution requirements prior to attempting to address or deliver those. So, for example, customer wants X, Y, Z. Agents explains, okay, I can give you X and Y, and explain how you can sort out Z online. Is that okay? Subject to the agreement, the goals or objectives of interaction agreed by both parties from the outset, significantly reducing potential for customer dissatisfaction. Because there is a danger that the agent says, oh, we can do X, Y, and Z, when you can only do X and Y.
And the customer not aware that Z's their responsibility,
Yeah.
I think it goes back to your point about managing expectations, whether that be what you can solve for the customer or how long it's going to take.
Yeah.
You avoid a lot of dissatisfaction if you get those out.
Yeah, I had that written on a broadband switch where there was something that I had to do on that, and that was setting the expectations quite important. Let's take a couple more. One change we made was to inform the rest of the business about the CSA's 88% target. So when agents call another department, we try to give them answers there and then, when previously often said they're busy, send an email. Yeah. And the last comment now, listening to escalation calls and determining the breakdown point, and then putting together work aids, programs and processes to aid agents in these circumstances, empowering agents to make decisions under $100 without getting prior approval, which I think tied into the second point you made there, Richard. So some great feedback on there. We're reaching the top of the hour now, so in one or two words, what did you like best about today's webinar? Just pop those into the chat room where there's been a very active conversation been going on. A copy of the slides are available on Call Center Helper. You'll find that through the callcenterhelp.com/recorded webinars, where you'll be able to link to the recording, or indeed it's on the same link as you've dialed in to today. I know a lot of you do like to share these. We've covered a lot of material. A lot of you like to share these with your own teams and also with your executive teams, so please feel free to dial in. That will be available probably in about an hour's time. And just like to say finally thank you to you, Richard Farrell.
Thanks very much, Shelty.
Thank you to Andy Walker.
Thank you.
It's been a lot of fun. And thank you to everyone in the audience for dialing in. And we are taking a week off for half term next week, and we'll be joining you in 2 weeks' time. Thanks very much, and and we'll be choosing your top tip immediately after the webinar. Thanks everyone. Bye bye.